Hello everybody, this is going to be a video about typing tips, things that people have asked me a lot and I often don't necessarily want to give a straight answer to that. And I thought, let's try this. So the first thing would be the thing that I talked about before, get a baseline. What do I mean when I talk about the baseline is that you need to actually have a general idea of the person before you actually start the typing. So I spent a few hours just listening to the person and watching some content. Another thing that I've been talking about in certain mediums is that try to break the functions and animals, everything you can. Break it into as small parts as you can. Animals are a little bit tricky, you sort of need the whole to actually get it. But with function as an example, instead of thinking about NI or SI or TE or FE, try to break it down to tribe versus self and thinking versus feeling or intuition versus sensing. Since the subtleties are very small, if you are going with whole functions, sometimes the people cater them to you. Okay, this person definitely has SI. Sometimes that happens. But a lot of times it is highly beneficial for you to actually track as small parts as possible. It also sort of prevents your bias. The next thing is to take notes. Actually make proper notes, which you can then return to after the result is out. Also, it's much easier when you need to do typing of someone else who reminds you of this person later on. So making good notes is going to actually work for you in the long run. My own notes haven't been the best possible until recently. I've started to upgrade them and I very much regret it at this point. So do as I say, not what I did, kind of advice here. Also, another very obvious thing, gather the data first, then do the conclusions. The thing is that once you have all the data on paper or on doc, whatever you use, it's much easier to go through it and then draw conclusions from the data. It allows you to see how often certain things repeat in reality. Thing that I don't see people talking about much, they do talk about how much time they took to type the person in general, how many hours it took. But people don't talk about it. How do they actually spread the time? And what I've noticed, being low sleep myself, might be different for someone with higher sleep, is that it is much easier when you actually break your typing process along several days. So it allows you more time to process, it allows the gathered information to sink in, find its place, get organized, and then when you come back to it, new conclusions arrive. And for me personally, the minimum amount of days I need is 3, preferably over 4. If I do a typing in 2 days, it's going to go wrong. I can't do it. I don't have enough time to process the information and get everything sorted out in my head. I don't yet have the kind of tools to actually speed up my process. Find your process, have a process first of all. That's if you don't have a typing process and you actually want to learn to type, you need a process. That's something you really need. If you're just doing it, however, build one, create a process. It doesn't need to be the same as mine, but just find your way. Maybe you are better with patterns. You don't need to expend 20 hours a week to type. That's absolutely fine. Just make sure that you've actually double-checked enough and have enough gathered, so to say. Another thing that Dave and Shannon keep saying all the time, track your results. If you're typing with a partner, then track your individual results, put them next to each other, have a shared doc, whatever, but don't change your results based on what both get and get some sort of consensus. That's not necessary. It's more important to track what results you keep getting, and if there's two of you, what kind of results you keep getting together. So this is mainly because it allows you to do targeted attacks on the stuff you need to study more. Of course, you are superhuman, you can remember everything, you have a memory of an elephant and everything, but I still think it makes it easier if you actually have it all written down. I keep repeating this, many other people keep repeating this. Actually go and double or even triple check your conclusions. So if you're suspecting something, go back to the clip, find more proof, find several places where the same pattern reoccurs, try to find a counterpart of it, if it's a savior then a demon or vice versa. Have as much proof for every part as possible. And the last part is, it's not as much of a typing tip, but prioritization. Why are you doing typing? Are you planning to use it professionally? Are you only doing it to get better along with your co-workers or your family members, to understand people better? How good do you need to be at typing? So if you are typing consistently every week and you aren't on a level that you want to be, what is the level you need? Why do you want to reach this certain level? It's worth consideration. Like, learning to type for anyone is going to take a lot of time and effort. We are talking about a thing that took the creators thousands of tries to get right. And even now, they still don't have like 100% certainty. That's just not possible. So how much time and effort are you ready to actually put in to your typing process? We talk about this with Evelyn, and she is absolutely right. There is nothing to be ashamed of to admit that I have higher priorities. I have children, I have a career, I have a relationship, whatever. If those are higher on your priority list, then you don't have the time. If you really have a goal that involves typing, then by all means, then go and invest the time. You need to find the time to actually learn it. But what are your priorities when it comes to typing? How much are you ready to sacrifice for learning this skill? This is going to be sort of like a plus tip, and this is only my opinion, not something I keep hearing from anyone else ever. And this is, do not overthink it. The definitions are relatively simple. So keep them simple, ask simple questions, look at simple things. Do not try to import something very complicated into something that is relatively simple. I'm not saying typing is easy by any means. As Mel Robbins says, simple doesn't equal easy, but if there is a higher chance of one form of bias if you try to insert too much into something that's not actually there. So just try to keep it as simple as you can. It really isn't rocket science after all. It's just patterns that humans do. All right, so this is it for this time. Let's hope it was helpful for someone at least. If not, let me know that too. Bye.